Tech fans, welcome to another great edition of Up with the White and Gold. I'm your host, Jeremy the Impact York. Uh, Shout out to good buddy GA Tech John Watts, who is busy doing some awesome Friday night football work right now. Wish the best of luck for all of the people involved in the things he's doing right now. But that means you get me solo again on the show. So, before we get into the show, if you are a fan of the show or want to be a bigger fan of the show, you can go to our YouTube channel and go to impact underscore media underscore, and you can find all our amazing content there, including this show, our Georgia show. We talk pro wrestling, MMA. I had local, he's not really that local, he's almost national professional wrestler Bryce Cannon on a special show earlier this week. Go check that one out. We do all kinds of special stuff all the time throughout the week. Go check all that out. Maybe you'll find your new favorite show. But other than that, let's get into this game, right? Can we get into this game? Boy, Georgia Tech. If I don't know how many players on this team are a part of the drama department, but they can really put on a show. Boy, can they really put on a show. I mean, they have this one going pretty well. I give it to them. They had it going. They were up 7, and they're tied at halftime. You're like, well, okay, and then it just starts to kind of Boston College comes alive, and Tech made a couple mistakes here and there, but they had to rally late, and with just 11 seconds to go, we get Burr, who puts it right through the uprights as only he can, and you get the 36-34 victory. Now, a lot more can be said than just that. 36-34 wasn't a terrible defensive performance, but boy, it wasn't great. It definitely wasn't great. Definitely could have been a lot better. But their defense wasn't great either. Haynes King threw for 371 yards and 1 touchdown. The running game, man, it was 257 yards on the ground. 107 of it were Hosley. George Allen was getting in on it. Haynes King, of course, got his. Malik Rutherford picking up the back end of it. Jamal Haynes, somebody's name we hadn't called a lot this year. He gets the rush touchdown there. It was nice to see him score. Jordan Allen and Hosley with the other ones there. But this was another hiccup that I thought could happen. I didn't know it was going to be them. I told you guys I didn't think Georgia Tech would go undefeated. And I thought some teams that wouldn't normally test them were going to be weird matchups and test them. Turns out Boston College was one of them. You're just going to get that. That's sports, that's football, that's life. That sometimes the most unexpected thing becomes the biggest thing or biggest obstacle in front of you, and you have to address it that way. You can try to downplay it all you want, but Boston College went from being a team that a lot of people thought, not Georgia Tech, a lot of people thought Georgia Tech was just going to cruise control it right through them. No, I may have said I thought they'd have a little easier time than this, but when I saw the first half of this game, it made me start thinking a little bit and go, they've got to pick it up. And Boston College finished kind of strong there. They've really got to get into some stuff, and you don't want to get upset this late in the game because it will really, really cost you. But they do get the win. Rutherford and Rivers both with 100 plus. That's something I say the Falcons need to do. You need more than one receiver. They had, I would say, half a dozen that were catching passes all over the place. Just great overall effort. They only had the lone sack that Kilo Stone had, but I thought they were doing okay tackling. But the problem was, instead of your average tackle happening near the line of scrimmage like it's been most of the year, it was happening almost to the linebackers, and that means they're getting yards on you. That means they're moving the ball. but that's something they've got to work on. I definitely think they will. It doesn't even matter to me that Burr, or it's not a big deal to me that Aiden Burr missed a field goal because he hit the ones that mattered. He was able to put them ahead when they needed it, and just you know, overall great effort. I thought. Um, you hate it for BC. They're now 1-10. I think they showed they're a little bit better team than 1-10. Maybe they still have 3 or 4 wins. Couldn't quite put this one together. What kind of stat line? Dylan Lonergan, 362, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. There were 0 interceptions thrown in this ball game, folks. 0 interceptions. Two teams that don't turn the ball over much, and two quarterbacks that will not make that mistake if they don't have to. You did give up Turbo Richard. I think it was Richard. Turbo Richard was sound way better, but I think it's Turbo Richard. 141 yards, 2 scores. Jordan McDonald got in on it too. Man, McDonald was the one that I know he had just a small amount, but it seemed like he was laying the blocks and he was doing a lot of the dirty work that was setting up Turbo and setting up the passes and all that. Very similar stat lines for both teams. Just a really good game, though. I mean, a little closer than maybe we would have liked it, but I like when teams take each other to the limit. And Georgia Tech got to really learn something here, and that was you're going to be tested by all kinds of things, and you got to be ready for them. And it's how you respond as to what people are going to remember, and of course the outcome of the game, which means you won. You were able to overcome everything and get back with a chance to win, and you rally late, and you're able to do that, and you stay alive in the ACC. Can we move? What screen we got here? We're gonna go. We go to the ACC. There we go. As of right now, the same 4 teams are in the running. Same 4 teams. SMU. Who does SMU have this week? They have Louisville and then Cal. Okay, fair enough. I know Pitt has Tech and then Miami. Boy, Miami can really do you a solid. Virginia has Virginia Tech is all they have. They don't have a game this weekend, so huh, that that's going to be a little tough. And then Georgia Tech, of course, has Pitt and then Georgia. So it really does come down to this weekend. How big is this game? I said it on the Georgia show. It's part of why I picked that particular game. This week, we're going to get Tech versus Pitt. And it's basically going to decide who the second team in the ACC title game is. Because this game's at Tech, by the way. But with both teams just within a game of each other, it helped that Pitt lost. By the way, they are 5-2 out there. Or no, I think they are 5-1. Yeah, and Tech is 6-1 in the ACC. Um, it really does come down to this. It comes down to if you win this game, you're in the ACC title game. Because I don't think anybody else can catch you. And it's probably you and Virginia because Virginia, at absolute worst, going to finish 6-2. It's between them, and if Pitt takes the loss against Tech, I think they're pretty much out. It would come down to if SMU throws together a couple wins on the back end. But Tech fans, that's just how big this game is. Is you need to beat. I mean, not just for other reasons, but as much as I argue that Georgia might be better off not being in the SEC title game, Tech, this is your ticket in. This is your ticket in because if you basically win out and win the ACC title, you're in the playoffs. If you went out and you're runner up in the ACC title, You might be. There's a real small chance. But at some point, and winning out, let's keep this in mind. If you play Georgia really close, but Georgia still wins 31-30, 34-31, real close. I think that's still going to help you in the ranking because of Georgia being possibly one of the top teams in the league. Tech, I think you're real close too. So you got to beat Pitt. You beat Pitt, you're in. What you do against Georgia, what you do in the ACC title game will determine A, if you're in the playoff, and B, if not, what important, probably New Year's Bowl you're actually going to be at. And I do think this team is that special. I think they are a top 10 team, whether they win the ACC or not. They might be number 7 or 8 if I actually had to rank them. They're just so dynamic, and they're so exciting. They're so exciting to watch. You guys are watching these games too. I wish, for the sake of a lot of our heart, I wish they wouldn't nail bite it as much as they do. But man, this team is just really special. I don't even want to talk about next year because we're still in this year. And the Pitt Panthers are gonna bring it because they know the only way they're getting the ACC title is they have to beat Georgia Tech, and the only way Georgia Tech's going to be in is they got to beat the Pitt Panthers. It really comes down to this game. What I called it 2 or 3 weeks ago, that this was probably the biggest game because you get two teams and only one gets to move on to the basically semifinal, otherwise known as the ACC title, so that the final is getting in that big bracket. Because I think in the bracket, I think they can wreck some people. They can ramble and wreck some people. And honestly, depending on what side of the bracket they're on and the matchups that you get, Tech would have a chance. Tech would have a chance, whether it's an Alabama or an Indiana. I'll be honest, Tech Ohio State sounds like a fun game to me. Sounds like a real fun game. Now, I would argue Georgia Tech is probably not quite as good as Ohio State. I will yield that. You guys know I'm a big Michigan fan as well. I will yield that I will always be real with things. Like I said, Georgia Tech not quite as good as Georgia. Doesn't mean they can't beat them. Georgia Tech not quite as good as Ohio State. Doesn't mean they can't beat them. I mean, we could easily say from this week, right? Boston College not as good of a team as Georgia Tech. Well, they almost beat Georgia Tech. It's any given Saturday. That's the thing to look for, and it's not just a puncher's chance or they've got just a small chance. Or, man, of course they always have a chance. No, it's if they play Tech football, and what Tech football is we're going to punch you in the mouth at the line of scrimmage. Our defensive line is going to get pressure on your quarterback and force him to make plays long before he wants to. Our offensive line is going to allow everybody in the backfield to have plenty of time for the play to develop or to get a run start or whatever they need to do. Like I said, they're going to establish the run, and they're just going to keep just chipping away at you and just muscling you and out-maneuvering you and moving men off of pieces of turf that they don't want to be moved off of, moving people against their will. That's Georgia Tech football right now is the old school mentality of we're going to run the ball, we're going to accent it with great passing, and we're just going to beat you up the line of scrimmage. And that's how they're getting it done. That's absolutely how they're getting it done. This is a 7 o'clock game tomorrow night. I may be able to watch this one live. This is going to be crazy. I'm looking forward to it. It is on the 4-letter network, 7 p.m. Pitt bringing their 7-3 record against the 9-1 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I know I speak for John when I said we both got the jackets, and not because he graduated from there and is a big fan, and not because I'm a big fan and we host this show. Georgia Tech can beat Pitt, and I think they can do it at a comfortable level. I think they can win by 7-10. They probably will win by 4 or 5, knowing them. But give me a score of 31-27. I actually think that's a little low, but 31-27 Georgia Tech. It's going to be Pitt who is trailing and trying to come from behind, and I think Georgia Tech is going to be able to kibosh that right there in the end. Um, but other than that, that is pretty much all I got for this week. Appreciate you guys tuning in and allowing us to come on each and every week uh, and talk Georgia Tech football. For John Watt, for GA Tech John Watt, I am Jeremy the Impact York. We will see you guys next week. Deuces, gooses. Go Jackets.